Let's head back now to this developing story. It's just popped up in the last half hour or so in Myanmar, with the military detaining the country's leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Southeast Asia correspondent Mazoe Ford joins us now from Bangkok. Mazoe, g'day, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Joe. Well, we know that in the past hour, Aung San Suu Kyi has been detained, and several figures of her National League for Democracy party have also been detained in early morning raids across Myanmar. There's little detail so far, but a spokesperson for the National League for Democracy party has urged his party members and supporters not to make any rash movements, not to jump to conclusions, everybody to be calm while they find out some more information. This comes, Joe, on the same day that Parliament was due to resume in Myanmar following the elections in November, on November the 8th. And this was when the National League for Democracy party won in a landslide. It was a resounding victory with 83% of the seats. And that's important in Myanmar because 25% of the seats are already controlled by the military. So for any party to have any power, when they're in power, they need to have that very large majority in order to be able to govern. However, after that November the 8th poll, there was some contention. The Union Solidarity Party voiced their concerns, saying that they believed the election was not free and fair. They believed there were duplicate names on voting papers. They demanded that the Election Commission hold the poll again. However, the country's Election Commission said that they believed it was free and fair, and domestic and international observers backed that up. Just last week, though, the military came out and said that it would, quote, take action if the Election Commission did not take its concerns about the vote into account. So there was a lot of tension in Myanmar last week, Joe, late last week, as to whether or not there would be a coup. The military then came out and said it did respect the constitution. But now this morning we have seen Aung San Suu Kyi, Myanmar's state councillor, and several other senior leaders of the National League for Democracy party arrested in early morning raids.
And Mazoe, you mentioned there that it was a Union Solidarity party that had raised concerns about the conduct of the election. Is that party basically a proxy for the military?
They're very closely aligned to the military, Joe. So we don't quite know the inner workings of what went behind the scenes last week between that party and the military, but it was certainly the military who came out and said it would take action if there was if its concerns about the election result were not addressed. And then in a press conference, when Myanmar media asked about whether or not it would stage a military coup, the military leader who was conducting that press conference refused to rule it out. So that, of course, sparked a lot of speculation. Things went quiet on that front over the weekend, but for some protests from military supporters who came out and said that they wanted there to be action over this election result. There was a lot of security around the capital Naypyidaw. There was a lot of attention. Members of Parliament who were due to take their seats, or who are due to take their seats today in the Parliament, were kept under tight security. We saw pictures of police around the capital making the streets safe. But now this morning, in the early hours of this morning, I might add, in Myanmar, before 6 a.m, Aung San Suu Kyi and several senior members of that National League for Democracy party have been detained, and we're waiting for some more details about what that means and whether there are going to be more people detained.
And had some Western diplomats raised concerns about what was going on in Myanmar over the last couple of days?
They had, Joe, including Australia. The embassies of Australia, Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, several in the EU, issued a joint statement late last week. And in that statement, it said, "We look forward to the peaceful convening of the Parliament on February the 1st, and we urge the military and other parties in the country to adhere to democratic norms. We oppose any attempt to alter the outcome of the election." That's just some of the statement. It was quite a lengthy statement issued by those foreign embassies. We also heard from the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, who said he had great concern about what was happening in Myanmar. He said that he urged all actors to desist from any form of incitement or provocation, to demonstrate leadership and to adhere to democratic norms and respect the outcomes of that general election. So certainly some pressure from foreign powers there. But as we've seen in Myanmar on many occasions, the military here has certainly flexed its muscle, and it will be interesting to see what plays out then over the rest of today.
And this comes after democracy was only reintroduced to Myanmar relatively recently.
That's right, Joe. And in 2015, when Aung San Suu Kyi won the election there in a landslide, that was said to be the first free and fair election for decades. People were cheering and dancing on the streets. People had hoped that this would mean the end of military rule, but there's that tricky, awkward power sharing agreement in Myanmar, Joe, where the military does have 25% of the seats. That's laid out in the constitution. So there's always that military presence there. And that's been something that certainly in her first term, Aung San Suu Kyi hasn't been able to change or address. So it's continuing to be a factor in all of Myanmar's politics. And now we see after the second free and fair elections, that's according to the Election Commission and international and domestic observers, that the military has not accepted that result. Has said that it wants that poll to be held again. It said it will take action, and today the detention of Aung San Suu Kyi and those other leaders is a representation of that.
And Zoe, Aung San Suu Kyi had been a hero of democracy and human rights movements across the world for quite some time, but that image had been tarnished significantly in the last couple of years because of the Rohingya refugee situation. But those groups that had raised concerns about her in the last couple of years are still now raising concerns about democracy. They're still concerned about the democratic situation there in Myanmar, despite those concerns about what she's done in recent years.
Well, Joe, interestingly, much of Aung San Suu Kyi's human rights record comes from outside Myanmar in the international community. Within Myanmar, a number of experts I spoke to in the lead up to the election last year said that many of the people in Myanmar see her role and her stance towards the Rohingya minority Muslim population there. They see her stance as strength. They see her as taking a stand. They see Rohingya as illegal immigrants. So her position has actually won her many fans within the country. However, internationally, as we know, the issue has been before the International Court of Justice. Many human rights organisations, embassies and leaders right around the world have condemned her position towards the violent atrocities against that minority Rohingya population. But her position within Myanmar seems to be as strong as ever. She has a lot of support from inside the party, from inside her own party, from inside the country. And she certainly wasn't, her popularity certainly wasn't dented during that last election because of it.
Yeah. Okay, Ms. O, just before you leave, just setting out what's likely to happen through the rest of the day. It's hard to know what's likely to happen. What's the time there in Myanmar now? And is there any indication that we'll hear anything more? I know with that statement from the party spokesperson that they said to the media after they'd said that they expected they were going to be one of the people who was probably going to be detained as well.
Well, if it was a normal day, Joe, we would be expecting Parliament to resume and the newly elected MPs and the MPs from right around Myanmar to take their seats in the Parliament in Naypyidaw. That's probably unlikely to happen now. It's just after 6 a.m. in Myanmar at the moment. As you said, the spokesperson for the National League for Democracy Party said he expects to be detained and others to be detained this morning. So we'll watch the next few hours closely to see just how many members of this party are detained and what will happen on the streets with the military and with the police.
Yeah. Okay, Zoe Ford reporting there from Bangkok.